Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. This is the second game in the best 2 out of 3 on the third round of my participation in the Bootcamp servers rookie tournament, and I'm playing today as Israel going against Eastern Bloc and of course the First Lieutenant M1911 Milk Tea. So this is something he picks Eastern Bloc first. Oh, my apologies. We also do have Osama bin Lifton with us from the Blitz War Community Discord. So you want to say hello?
Yeah, it almost forgot me there.
My bad. We just came away from playing these. I just played these maybe 45 minutes ago.
45 minutes ago.
So this is very fresh. It's very tense, and I made such a big mistake right at the beginning that it's still stressing me out right now. And that was, I saw the Salamandro. I thought about the number of ATGM plays we had in the previous game, which is, I think, it's going to go up yesterday as of the time you guys see this. So I pulled my 3D Baz backward, and then forgot that I did that, and selected all of this and was looking through it going, where's my Baz? Oh no, is my Baz dead? Did I lose my Baz? So just a moment of panic there, and we did see a Moderna coming up from Milk Tea, along with a Neva SC, and so he's going into golf pretty heavily. I just have Shaitet on the right, Hammer on the right. I'm trying to really overload this section, and I also do have 2 Drakens, because we saw a lot of seed planes, and I wanted no part of that. I wanted defense against helicopters, and I wanted something that could shoot at planes, even if it's not a guaranteed kill, that I didn't have to micro until I had a better position on the ground. So that was the intention there, and then I firmly believe the I Shermans are some of the best tanks in the game. 15 points, and they're so good. So I've been
They're heat too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, heat. So that means guaranteed shots against any sort of armor.
Yeah, you can tickle down some super heavies with that.
Yeah, it's pretty goofy.
Maybe even get some lucky crits.
And think about it too, like, these guys are 15 points. Most wheeled transports are going to be 10 or 15. So these, I think, are 10. Yeah, but things like the 2AMs, 15 points, they kill one, they've just paid for themselves. So it's also nice standoff. You can see a lot of Pechotza mech up here. Just 10-point line infantry, but if we can get kills on it, great. They're also tanking shots from the Salamander and the Mi-17, which then gets too close and gets taken out by the Draken. So I love the... I don't like mechanized very much, but with Israel I really do like the options they have because of the I Sherman. It's just, it makes me so happy.
Yeah, and I see it taking a good amount of times too. I don't really play it myself when I play Israel, and I do play Israel a good amount too.
What do you do instead, if you don't mind me asking?
I like just honestly just using the Blazer.
So
it's just so good for.
Yeah. So that,
from my perspective, I was kind of surprised that he lost sight of your Baz pretty early on.
Really? So I'm pulling back. My smoke's out of position. I wasn't expecting this. Was a really good move from him, pulling around and then going through, looking for a side shot. I saw it at just the last second and presented a front facing. And
yes, that was really good. You've got to and I know your recon heal just died, but you've always got to have a recon heal up on this side of the map, because then you'll be able to first of all see what's going on the battlefield in general, but you can see over the hill.
By the way, second Syria 3-0, that's 240 points in the air. The first one's just coming in, so that tells me, like, most of my reinforcements have been on the ground. I did pull in a Mar 290 because it's wonderful at stunning advances, but that tells me, okay, I have the numbers on the ground. Let's go for it. Rovait won't beat Mochit to 90, but I figured this is going to stress him out. It might even get him to call in reinforcements on this side, and I'm okay.
Well, Rovait with Zelda actually might do the trick, honestly. Their RPGs aren't that great.
Fair enough. I think there was support, support from the town. Generally, when I push up here, I'll smoke off right about here on this section of road. And that allows things like the Zelda to shoot in without taking that sort of fire, but there, I was more concerned with the 3D Baz. This also, I was so annoyed. I recently turned off the setting to auto-target resupply, and I probably could have killed that Kolos. So.
Yep, and that would have been kind of juicy, actually.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are pretty expensive, 30 points, and I think you get 7 of them. So, I mean, it sounds like a lot at the beginning of the game, but it's not for a long game. Like, you run out of these things very often. So
I believe he lost one of the Syrias, and might have not happened yet, but I think it's this match is kind of one of the key. It really shows why you shouldn't spam ATGM planes or even rely on them. There is a time and place for them, but it should not be the oh shit panic button that most people do, and it should not be the primary, super heavy fighting solution.
Well, so let's actually just take a look at this, because if we look at neutral, look at the amount of red and the amount of blue on the front line. Just the number of units. This is very much tilted in my favor. And I probably could have been more aggressive here if I had wanted to. I mean, the only reason I didn't...
You're just repairing your baz, that's fine.
Yeah, but if this guy was repaired, if I hadn't taken that serious shot, you can bet I'd be pushing everything across the open ground and using the baz to anchor that, because this Moderna does not have enough in front of him compared to the Rovaites and Zeldas and all the chaff I can throw forward. So buying those in the air and then not getting return on investment really, I think, changed the course of this whole game at this point.
Oh yeah, I think it's defined this whole game actually, in fact, I would say.
So he did cap hotel, that prompts an immediate command vehicle buy from me into Foxtrot. Sorry. I already have one going to Charlie and then one more into Foxtrot because I really didn't want to be behind on points. And again, just doing that mental calculus, saying I think I'm ahead right now on points killed as well as points on the ground. I wanted to put pressure on him, and it's Conquest, you have to play for the zones. One way to put pressure on somebody is just to get a little bit of passive tick. So I'm cancelling his out with Hotel Charlie, and then I'm trying to get just +1 going over the long course of a game. And I know different maps behave differently for this. Mudfight is one where the tick is really important. I'm curious what you think for Paddy Field 1v1. Like, is this a match where it's really hard to get that +1 tick, or can it be more dynamic?
Well, you mean hard as in like it's something you should really go for? Like, personally for me, instead of buying that CV for Foxtrot, I just would have used it to immaterial for your push, because again, you saw this, they had 2 areas. I think one died at this point, I don't really remember, but you have so much material on the ground, and again, for the opener, I mean, that just means you're going to be able to push them out. So again, so instead of buying CV Foxtrot, I just would have used those points into actual material to take golf and just finish it off.
Yeah, that's fair. You can... This is 115 points, which is 3 double squads of Rovite and Zeldas and a couple of Eye Shermans. It would have been exactly the meat that I needed to make this Baz just really get return on investment into golf. Although this is...
Or it could have been a Gamel even. Depending on, like, obviously your refun's on a great place, so it's kind of hard to see what he's buying, but...
Yeah, that's true. This is something... As soon as I lost the Siphon, you're right, I should have immediately replaced it, because I don't have line of sight over the back part of golf even. And
put it behind the square, where the Baz is. Just kind of further back behind it, and you just change altitude so it's hovering above. Not that far back, but just like right there. Okay. And that way it can see on the hill, which is very important. Because right now, if he's driving stuff from hotel to Bravo, you're not going to be able to see it. Well, now you can because of the Sherman, but in general, you wouldn't be able to see it.
Yeah, and
of course, information is...
Yeah, information is definitely key, and this was just a diversion, so he's actually smoking there now. Well, no, he's mortaring where I smoked. Look at that. I put smoke down, he's doing HE. So my opponent's attention is over here, and mine is over in golf, because this was entirely just a, you know what, I'm going to make you think I'm going into alpha. And...
Yeah, no, and that's really smart. I love faking pushes with smoke. I think Blitz War has kind of gone a good read on when I am faking or not, but most players, I think I can usually get away with it.
So I am a strong advocate of having people that you play with very often, and I know it can get sort of, as you said, to be a known meta, so you'll know sort of how your opponent likes to play and all that, but it can be so much fun, and is really good for team games as well, and I love a good team game. Probably the analog for me is going to be Han to Hun. We're both sort of in the middle on skill, I'd say, 2nd Lieutenant, 1st Lieutenant. Although I think I actually recently, at the time of recording, got 1st Lieutenant. But
you see what that Siphon opens up in terms of recon, just there.
Yeah, look at this, all of the Bachota.
Yep.
And they're in the open. The Mar 290, it's just beautiful, right? So I saw this stuff starting moving up, I was getting prepared for my own push, and all of this line infantry, panicked, stunned, damaged, just moving really slowly. It's really, really nice. And the Eye Shermans didn't really do that well. I think they're actually getting shot at by the Moderna on this side. But we still get a vehicle kill, so they are still paying for themselves just a little bit, and they're distracting things. So at this point, I think there's 2 Modernas right here from Momenti, and that is a little scary, but the 3D Baz can fight them one-on-one, and if they're shooting at other stuff, I can still do a lot of good work. So you can see we get a shot, 4 damage. I was actually hoping for better, but the return shot missed. And because it missed, we're going to take a second shot in, and then I think I was trying to do the ATGM cheese there by turning off my main con, but he does draw back, so very nice control from Milk Tea on that side as more Mar290 shots are just going in. Just denying, like, that makes it...
Does your Moglon get a side shot?
Not quite. So the town, I think, is blocking.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Thermomig, by the way, too.
Maybe. Oh, yep, okay.
This, I don't recall if it hits. Yeah. Yeah, that's the kill. That's unfortunate. But, I mean, I'll take that trade any day if I can get the kill on the plane. Like that, it's a very expensive plane. He has to kill a lot of Moglon to make that worthwhile. And then the Modernas are coming up, but one of them's still damaged. I'm sitting there going, okay, let's peek out. A little overzealous maybe with the smoke here, because I'm just trying to work my way forward, and that ends up blocking, denying my own.
Yeah, those Shermans actually picking away at the Moderna.
That's kind of hilarious. Got 2 points of damage too. That's side armor. And it's what, 9 AP heat versus 6 or 7, I want to say, side armor? It's not a ton.
I think so. It's about 1 or 2 damage.
People know frontal armor value is not side, but yeah. Side is important too. There are some, I think there's a couple units in the game that have exceptionally high side armor, and it makes them really good woods fighters. Because they're a little bit less dependent on that sort of stuff. So he's actually split his Modernas now, moving one back. One of them is still right here, I think. And I am trying to engage, but I'm starting to lose my chaff. My Rovate are getting killed. There's a Syria, and I'm just pulling back. And he actually even missed the Sherman. Oh goodness. Poor Syria. He's not having a good day. But seeing that does make me pull back, because we waited, we got a good push, we got a lot of good pressure on. Maybe not the best trading here right now, but still decent, and I've got another Baz, so now I can take that fight against the Moderna very confidently. And
yeah, I was going to say earlier, your balance of chaff versus tanks were kind of off balance, which is why I was saying if you weren't going to bring a CV to I think it was Anna or whatever the other one pointer, I probably would have brought something like maybe a couple Terrans or even a Magok.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is something I struggle with in Israel. I have them in the deck. I have the 55 pointers and the 100 pointers. I never bring them in. I just don't know when to use them. And in part, I think that's because the 3D Baz is so good. And even the 3B, I think, with the grenade launcher is so good. I don't buy
that is my favorite tank. I love the 3B. I know it's... I honestly I use that instead of the Merkava 2A a lot for when I play Israel General. Just because if you micro that 3B properly, that thing is just farming kills all game, and it is so hard for them to kill it unless there's a couple factions that might be an issue.
Out of curiosity, like what? USSR comes to mind, but I don't know if that's...
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. USSR. I would say, yeah, I mean, in the forest, USSR really is just about it. I would say also Commonwealth with the Fusilier 90s even, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, really good AP
that
for
could be
a cheap unit, so you see a lot of them, really high numbers of troops. So I'm counterfiring his proms, he's trying to get infantry in. This is a recipe for disaster, unless you can get the kill with the Sirius. Let's see, I'm pulling back, missiles on the way, and we do, I think that was line of sight. But I don't know. He might have just rolled poorly. What do you think for that?
No. It's a fire and forget, so even if you lose a line of sight, it doesn't matter.
Really? So I just got sheer lucky there.
Yep.
Well, sometimes it happens.
Merkava has a really high ECM, you know.
Oh yeah, clearly. And
yeah.
Just for those of you who don't know, that's just a complete joke.
A hidden stat. No,
so
that's a hidden stat.
Nimrod gets the kill. I love this thing. I think you said last time it's not your favorite unit.
No, I love using it. It's just I wouldn't consider it competitive just because it's taking up some important slots. Like as a unit, it is good, but you're taking up an infantry slot or a recon slot, both of which are just so critical for Israel if you're playing general.
Right. Now, the only reason I tend to get good use out of it is I tend to lose my recon, so like the Moglon up here that died. And then I wanted another Moglon, I had a couple extra points, and I was just sitting there going, you know what? Let's get the other Moglon team up there quickly, and then bring in a Nimrod. Why not? It keeps my other Moglon on the ground still available. And the Nimrod was exactly what I needed in Golf, and I don't think Israel really has, other than the P10, a lot of other options that are great for helicopter anti-tank. So, at least not that I take. anyway.
I mean, it's got 2 really solid options, which is not bad, honestly.
Yeah, fair
Most of the ATGM Halos in this game kind of suck.
Yeah, I mean, just hard to get return on investment, like we are talking about in yesterday's game as well. So at this point, we're at 151 points to 18, taking +1 because I do have control of Bravo. And if I can get the towns in Golf, then I'm going to feel confident about getting a +2, and that really does lock my opponent out of the game pretty hard, unless he has success in 2 different zones. So you can see I Sherman's coming up yet again, 30 points for each of these double squads, 15 points apiece, and I am trying to get the Mar290s. This was a bit of a spiked shot, I think. We saw the Neva move in here earlier, and I figured, let's just go ahead and shoot in and see if we can get any sort of kills. We actually stun it, and there's the kill on the Neva.
Oh, that was really that was right on.
Yeah, it was pretty right on. So I don't know. Doing things like that is not a great idea with the Mar290 because it's so few shots and decently high dispersion for those shots.
Oh no, I disagree actually, because you roll the dice, and when it lands, that thing fucks. It
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Very high HE value. I don't actually remember off the top of my head, but 15.
Yeah. Yes.
The HE value, if I'm not mistaken, affects the damage it gives, but also the radius around which that damage is delivered. So
yeah, Wargame they scale it by the HE.
Yeah. Side note, that's actually the same method used by a very obscure BattleTech tabletop called A Time of War. That I actually DM'd a couple of years ago for about a year, and I cannot recommend against doing that any harder. I love the setting, I love BattleTech. The channel was actually originally BattleTech, and I moved on to Wargame just because I found that I loved this game. But yeah, no, D&D does it better. Stick with D&D. It's just, Time of War is D&D with guns. It's just that, you know how, have you ever played Dungeons & Dragons?
Everyone what?
Have you ever played Dungeons & Dragons?
Yeah, I used to play a lot.
Yeah, you know how some of it, you almost wish you had more dice rolls for things? Like some of it, it's just sort of breezed over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the opposite. Time of War, you're sitting there going, do I really have to dice roll like 4 times to get through the next 5 seconds? It a little overdoes it.
It's basically Warhammer right now, but yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
Back to Wargame.
Anyway, yeah. I wanted to ask you about the composition here in Bravo. I brought up
I was about to
Shiatet.
comment on it. Not compliment, comment on it. So, Shiatet, the main purpose you bring them really is for the RPG they bring, because your standard forest fighting protocol, and it's not great in the first place, but Israel in general does not have good launchers. The general protocol for Israel and forest fighting is Rovite with Merkavas, either at Merkava 2A, or what I really like to do is just honestly the 3B. And again, I know the 3B is just kind of really out there, but it is just so good if you're playing general.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a crutch leaning on the Shiatet 13, I think, and it cost 80 points.
Yeah, no, they're good. They're good for holding this angle. I would say maybe a little bit farther, because their launcher can really do work. But there are better units that you could have brought for the same price. Maybe even like a Blazer where your hammer is on the flank.
Yeah.
More Rovite, and instead even just bring a Merkava 2A.
I think people underestimate the usefulness of low AP vehicles with creative angles. So the Blazer doesn't even really have that high of a punch, but if it's sitting right here, it'll get side shots on anything moving down, and that's not a lot of armor oftentimes, so that, relatively middling AP, but at close range, and against thin armor, that's good kills. That's going to be really, really worth it.
Yeah, and the thing with the Blazer is that it's got also enough armor where autocannons can't penetrate it, so it's really good at just clearing trash in general.
So
it's a recon tank, yeah.
I do like about the Mar90 is 3 frontal armor, 2 side, 2 back. 0 top is an issue, but
I didn't realize it actually had so much armor.
Yeah, it makes it somewhat resilient to HE coming in, so you can see I'm getting counter-fired. Really lucky dispersion shot there from my opponent does hit them both, but because they had just a little bit of armor, we are going to be able to survive, move out of it, and sort of bring those guns back online. But this is a really vicious push into Bravo. My Nimrod's coming up again. BMP2s are pretty expensive at 20 points, but I don't know, I was a little worried at the time. I figured just, bring in more Zelda, bring in more Rove 890. These guys are 20 points apiece, so actually 40 for the, 30 for the Rove 890 and Zelda.
Yeah.
So if I can use these to kill a couple of BMP2s, that's easy return on investment. Which was the entire, like, that's forest fighting for me, is return on investment. We do also take down the Syria. That guy did kill a Zelda, but that's not going to be a return on investment. And then I'm just pushing back into Bravo, bringing up more and more and more stuff, and we're also fighting with the M72A4 laws, but no FN mag, while I do need to push into things like BMPs.
Yeah, all of us were so confused why he brought the Syria, because there was something big there. It was just Zeldas.
I think he was looking for the Nimrod. It might have been a misclick. If he was looking for like an L7 will. No, he doesn't have the L7.
The Syria diving is also kind of just. It's odd. It's odd, but it was an odd decision to bring out the Syria.
Yeah. So another thing too, I want to comment on. Oceans 90 actually got reasonably close to my auxiliary Kaku, and I had already kind of decided, you know, I'm not going to move this basically no matter what. Because the second you move it in response to your opponent...
Yeah, then they know.
Yeah, so you can see he's bringing in a Thermomig, and because I didn't move it, he doesn't know where I was. I could be back here, I could be over on the side, because he hasn't penetrated through on this end yet. I could be really cheeky right here, inside the zone. And there's a couple of options. As long as there's a couple of options, people won't want to risk their bombers on one-way trips. But there is a Moderna knife fighting, and using that autocannon to good effect. But we are going to be bringing in a Barak, and this is sort of like, it's the guaranteed shot. Not guaranteed, but this seemed to be high enough probability that it was worth the Barak coming in.
Yeah, and I would say that's the appropriate time to buy anti-tank plane like that. You know, his super heavy is overextended past his anti-air, or at least to a point where he's not comfortably sitting in his anti-air net. He doesn't have smoke. You have reliable vision, you know, if he runs out, your Rovite can just chase him down. It's going to be nearly impossible for him to escape at that point once you've called the plane out, unless he's already got smoke on the way, which in this case, luckily for you, he didn't.
And then I do make more mistakes bringing up Shaitat instead of Rovite and the Merkava 2A, but, yeah, things... I've yet to see a game where I wouldn't do something differently, and I think that's a really important part about learning the game, learning the factions, and getting just more comfortable with things like this overall, because I had very rarely been pushed that hard into Bravo this late in the game, particularly when I have control of Golf. Usually what I've seen is if it's a 1v1 and I have both these zones, people focus on Golf more than Bravo, because they don't like the woods fight usually. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, Eastern Bloc likes the woods fight.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
normally speaking, but I would say, I know we kind of discussed this earlier, honestly, I think Israel will kind of manhandle Eastern Bloc in the forest fight, just because Eastern Bloc does rely a lot on their Matschützen, their shock infantry, 15 points, which is great, but those guys don't have great AT weapons, and when you've got a Merkava 2A or even a 3B, my goodness,
Zeldas, frankly.
Yeah, even Zeldas, because even the Matschützen 90s just have an RPG, which is, 500 range, not the greatest accuracy, so that actually adds up, the range and accuracy, just basically meaning that if they're panicked, they've probably only got like a 30% chance to hit or something, and it's just not a good time to be an Eastern Bloc player.
That's going to work out pretty poorly for you, which is something that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Range scaling does matter on infantry secondaries. The Mar-290s at this point, by the way, are just counter-firing some of his mortars. I actually don't know if we got them. Yeah, no.
I think you panic them. Yeah. Also, one thing is on your Gulf side, once you've taken that town, you've got to start spiking this whole area with just, well, literally with spikes. Just because,
for those you don't know, that's the Israeli ATGM. So it's Orban LRs, but they fire the Spike LR missile.
Yeah. You've just got to at least scatter a couple in there. Like Israel, you really, really want to be scattering these all over the place. They're just such a good ATGM.
Yeah, and had
very annoying to deal with.
Much harder for me to push into. My Mogwon team is here, but it's out of spikes, and I'm gonna have to call in some resupply to deal with that. And there's no reason I shouldn't have a ATGM team in this section of town at this point.
Yeah, there's one in there, probably one by where Maglons are, and honestly, what I like to do sometimes, and what I would do with that Rovite with 2 health, you push these guys right up along the cliff to where the road drops. Because for them to get line of sight of they would have to be pretty far forward. Which usually by this, if you're taking that spot, they probably don't have recon there. And whatever comes down that road, your Rovite are going to be able to side shot it.
Yeah. One change I
Granted,
make, by
it's
the
usually
way,
cheap shit.
I think I had more than enough time to make that anti-air net better, and I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And that was
I mean, he's
problem.
spamming planes. You know, you probably.
So
And you saw him spamming planes last game.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason I didn't is I saw the Drakons kill the Syria earlier, and I thought to myself, okay, this is sufficient to kill planes, I guess.
You just got really lucky.
Yeah, I did, and so those planes getting out is more like what you're usually going to see with double Draken, because relatively short range versus air, actually way smaller than I expected, and a relatively low base accuracy at 45%.
45, yep.
The usually really good anti-air PCs you'll see are going to be more at like 60. That's the sort of stuff where you still want 2 of them at 60% to have a guaranteed or almost guaranteed kill, depending of course on the exact unit. But this is something where I think trading is just going my way over the long course, because LSTR 40, that's a 70-point double squad. If I can kill that, I don't even care if I lose this Rovite. I have to lose 7.5 Rovite to make up for killing this group.
Yeah, and that's why like Eastern Bloc into Israel is pretty tricky. I mean, yeah, sure they are great. The LSTRs the RPG-29s are great, but it's not like VDV in Russia where you're able to spam these on a cheaper shock infantry. These guys are 35 points a pop. They're very specialized and they're very expensive. And
they don't even have a tertiary for dealing with infantry. It's an anti-air, and that is sort of a bit of an odd choice because I haven't really been using helicopters other than the single Nimrod.
Yeah, he was using them for infantry fighting. I think his. I'm trying to think, but I think he was trying to think of a solution for your Merkavas in the forest, but you never really ended up bringing them anyways. So, but even if you did, like, I mean, your Merkavas would kind of just chew through these guys, and if he gets stunned in a chain of grenade launchers, I mean, again, that's 35 points down. That's going to hurt.
Yeah, and we did just kind of miss it there. I brought some infantry up and over to this side. We didn't kill the CV in Alpha, sorry, in Hotel, but we're forcing a lot of things to respawn. The Mi-35 to respawn. We ticked up to +4 for as long as that command vehicle was on the move, and that's going to nearly close out the game. So 474 points to 18, and just now T-72s are getting forward, and they're just running into a spike.
Ooh.
It's like after all that work to get through all those Rovite, and a spike is there to get 40-point kill, drop of a hat. And if that other tank comes up, it's going to do the same thing. And my Merkava 2s are here, they're ready, they're unloaded maybe a little bit close.
Yeah, look how quickly it just annihilated LSTR.
That's insane. That was just crazy. 3HE, I mean, that looks like 4, frankly. But Rovite moving up, Merkava 2A is moving up. I do lose the spike team to some mortars, but it's too late, I think, even with success, which was denied because of the Shyatet's launcher. In Bravo for Milk
Yeah,
Tea.
switch to neutral quick before it ends. You can.
Yeah, let's switch to neutral here.
Yeah, he's just so down on material.
Right, so we're gonna see that in the kill list. I'm gonna switch back over to myself for that, just so we can take a look at some star units. Well played to Milk Tea for a really good series. It was very nerve-wracking, particularly the first game. This one was a bit more lopsided in terms of trading, and I really think that just came down to the Woods fight, where yeah, I lost a ton of Rovite. But they're cheap, and they were trading way, way, way up against special forces and tanks. In fact, I think they're probably going to be some of the standout units are going to be the I Shermans. And, I mean, the Baz even didn't pay for himself, but the Nimrod did. Shyatet definitely seemed to have, but, I mean, this seems like a misplay into a misplay, frankly, where the Shyatet 13 are not the best option, but they happened to also pick up some good value while they were there. I do just want to say thank you again to Osama Bin Lifting for doing both of these games with me yesterday and today. And I do also want to give another shout out to the Blitzwar community Discord. Great place to be and a great place to learn the game with some really cool people.